Hey there, welcome to Matt's Garage and part 4 of my Neoru build here, which if you didn't know, it's a 2000 Dodge Neon body on a 99 Subaru Forester platform. I highly recommend you check out the first, second, and third parts of the series here. I packed a lot into each one of those, and I think they're all a good watch, and it really shows how the car has come together to this point, so I think you'll be kind of in the dark if you just watch this episode, if you're just tuning in now. So at the end of part 3 I had a bunch of these plates made up, and since then I bent those ones, and then those go in like that to hold that corner together. And then this, I just made these up go like that, and then those will be bent over and spot weld it in. Just a little progress update here. I've got that cap all welded in there, as you can see, and then I came down in here, welded that plating in there, and then this is a little tricky to show in here, but this is the end of the neon frame rail where it sticks up, this square piece in here, and I welded a piece of plate in there and then welded that down to that plate that I just welded on there. Okay guys, I'm progressing right along. Hard to show everything. You can see down in there how I have that joined together though. And I'm actually taking the radiator out after all. So I have it draining right now, as you can see. And I made these pieces that go in here. So that's one of the reasons I have to take the radiator out, because I have to weld along those two edges there. Well, there we go. I got all that plating made up today. These are the two outside rail plates, and these are the two inside rail plates, and they have quite a bend to them. And I've got the radiator out now, so those bent inside pieces, you can see they're going to go right onto the core support down there. Can maybe see it a bit better on that side. Right in there. You can see how I put that angled brace in there and everything. I should have took the radiator out before I weld it back in here, because these aren't my prettiest welds, but they'll still hold fine, and these ones look good around here, of course. I'm just working on my custom battery hold down here. So these come up from the base of the battery tray, and these are actually just to reinforce it, because there's going to be a welded nut on the back side. So just like this, it goes over it. There'll be a bolt right here, a 12mm bolt, and that'll be how you take it off, one on each side, nice and accessible. Here's how the battery tray and hold down's coming along. So I'm just spot welding those straps down to the tray there, and then I gotta make some mounts here to mount the tray up. You can see I've just had a 2x4 holding it up in the right position. I just love these batteries with the green eye, well, as long as it's green. Not so cool when they're red, but it's like a little alien eye looking at me. Okay, another quick update. You can see I got the battery tray all done. I welded in all the corners, dressed it up really nice and smooth. Went back over that and just cleaned up all the edges and stuff, and then I welded this in here, and the same thing over here. Of course I gotta grind the welds yet, but once I get that all ground up, the radiator will fit in there nicely. And then I made this bracket here. This is to mount the battery tray, just one of them, so it holds it up 2 inches off the frame there. So I got to put another one back here somewhere, and then I'm probably going to run a little tab off this to hold this corner. I just wanted to do an update. I didn't record any of this, but I welded all that plating on there, and right here you can see I got that plate there, and I made an additional corner bracket there. And then underneath, I put that little bracket there, which is actually cut out of the Neon's frame rail. I'll show you in a second. I haven't welded the other side on just yet. Right here, that's what that bottom piece looks like. before I weld it on. It's got that nice little reinforcing rib in it. You can see I actually cut it out of the side of that. And then this one is just made to join up the corner here. I'll show you on this side. You can see how this comes here, and it's just blind. It doesn't meet anything up here. It's spot welded in, but there's nothing behind it here. So I'm just using this little corner bracket to join this this core support, lower core support, and this frame rail here. So just like that, that's how that goes in. You can see how I did that on the other side. And then after that's all done, I just gotta, you can see in here I've got a little bit of that skirting to fill in there to meet up to the core support. And just a couple little brackets I still gotta build for the radiator, for the battery tray, and for the ABS pump here. Here's the interior for the Neoru that I hauled to the front the other day. I had it stored in one of the vehicles out back, and I'm going to be cleaning it all before I put it in, so that's why I got it sitting in the bay here. Okay guys, I'm just working on mounting up the ABS pump here. You can see down there, it's kind of hard to see, but I got a bracket welded in down there. And then I'm just working on another one right here. See, I'm just welding these are actually off a neon, these nuts, and I'm just welding them on the back side so that there'll basically be a captured nut there, and then spot welding these to the car. Hot potato. So there we go, there's the finished product. I just have to weld it in. And that factory Subaru bolt just threads right in there nicely. So there you can see I got those mounts all welded in there nicely. And I still have the skirting to add in there, but I'm trying to stay on track here and just get the battery tray bracketed down over here. So I already made that one bracket there, and you can see I got that spotted in there, just a single spot in case I still have to move it, but that looks like it's going to be the final position. And then I have to make another one back in this corner. The one thing I have to do is make sure that this is slightly sloped, because as you can see I made a drain hole on this corner, and that's because that corner is going to be as you can see suspended over midair, so any leakage can safely drain onto the ground and not all over the frame, which causes rust. Okay, so there's that bracket roughed out, and you can see there's a wow in that lip. That's intentional. So I'll show you how it fits now. So it's basically going to sit in like that, and you can see there's a couple different layers of metal there, so it's just got to have that little bit of a step in it so that it sits there evenly. And as I planned, it's just a touch higher than the front bracket, so the whole tray will slope down a little bit to that corner. Right now I just gotta weld up that little slit I made in there, and there's a couple other little slits just because this was a little scrap. So there we go, that'll hold, and then if I do need to reposition it, I can just twist it and break off that little spot there. So we'll get the tray fitted in here now and just see how that works. So that might work just like that, because when it's welded down it'll be like that. I have to go get the battery and see how it sits in here. It's really tight with the wiring back here. One thing is this mounting tab down here is hanging out past the tray, so I think I'm going to relocate that a little bit because I don't want that. Okay, so this one I'm actually just gonna spin it around, so I gotta chisel it off. I've got this special chisel here, is actually made for breaking spot welds. So we'll get in there and break that little spot weld. I already tried to twist it off, but when I weld something, it becomes one. This tool works really well. I can break a factory spot weld in seconds with it. Well, took about 5 minutes just to beat that little tack off. So don't anybody be telling me my welds aren't strong. So we're going to spin that around and just put it right like that. And that should work out. Okay, well there you have it. I've got the tray installed. 5 spot welds there. But don't know if you can see this, but it's not as solid as I'd like. I can wobble it just a little bit. So I am going to add a third bracket over here. So I'm going to do that right away. And then I got to get on mounting my transmission cooler in here and making the new mounts for my radiator. Okay guys, I'm just making up the brackets for the radiator. I just made one to start with because I wasn't sure if I was going to go with this design or not. But it's looking like it's going to work. I'm going to make those bends a bit more dramatic. And then I have this old kneeling pad, and I think I'm going to just, I'll peel the backing off of it and I'll make use of the foam from it. And these little tabs on the end are just to bend over the foam after to lock in there to hold it. So I'm going to trim up a piece of this to fit in there, and we'll see how it all works. So I'm just going to go try that on the radiator and kind of see how it cups around the radiator. I think I'm going to bend these a bit more, but I'll let you know when I get back. Okay, so just as I thought, I want to bend that a bit more, so I'll go ahead and do that. So there we go, that's about right. So now I got to make a second one identical basically. These are the lines from where I cut this one out, so I can line it up pretty good with that and then just draw around it with a Sharpie. That should be good enough. So there we go, that mount will become the same as that in a second here. There we go, those are two pretty much identical brackets now. Well, I've made some marks. I know these are right on the top and bottom edge of your screen, but that's how I have to have the camera set up. So I'm just going to be spotting these in just to check them. So I'll be test fitting the radiator. So I'm just going to put one small tack on each one. Okay, well that ought to hold it for now until we get the radiator test fit. Well, I'm just getting the radiator test fit here. I've got my mounts mocked up down there. They're not welded in place solidly yet, and I actually have to move them. So you can see where they are right there. They actually have to come ahead quite a bit. The radiator actually has to sit pretty well against that brace. So these got to move up about 3/4 of an inch, which means they'll be overhanging the edge like that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make a plate to go under them to support them so that it's doubled where it comes out off of this. And so I'll show you that when I get there. These are neon mounts here. Normally go right there. So we can probably make those work just like that. It's a little loose in that rubber. There, I went and tracked down the Subaru mounts here, so I just wanted to see how they worked out. They're actually a little bit, as you can see, a little bit high, but this goes down a touch, so that might work out. I like how they fit on there nice and tight. Okay guys, I made this piece, and I'll show you where it goes in a minute. You can see it's got that fancy front lip on it. So I'm just going to bend up a second one. So you can see I've got both those pieces all finished up there and ready to go in. But I had one other small issue with the outlet on the bottom of the Subaru radiator. It hung lower than the mounting points. So I had to make a slight dip in my core support right here to accommodate that. So now I have to grind these smooth because this plate is going to come and go right about there. Okay, another little progress update. You can see I've got that all together. Not all together, but I've got it tacked together and I'm ready to fit that radiator in there. And then down underneath you can see how that is. I just put 3 stitch welds across there. And same thing over there. And then I just prepared these 2 nut inserts, and they're gonna go under here. They're gonna get spot welded under there with a couple spot welds just to give me a place to bolt in the upper radiator mounts. They used to bolt in here, and I'll be welding over that hole because it's no longer in the right location. I've got the radiator in there now, and everything's fitting really nicely. It's down on the rubbers on the bottom and everything right now. And when I hold it in here, this is about where it's supposed to sit, and this radiator actually, not surprisingly, has a bit of a twist to it. But when we get the mounts in, it will hold it square. And it's really close to the belt down there. In fact, it's pretty well touching it. But the plastic where it's touching isn't vital. It's not a supporting piece or anything, so I can just carve it off of there in clearance for the belt. And then there's a wire down there that's a little close, but I can strap it back and that'll all be fine. So we're going to go ahead and get these upper mounts in. You can see I've got the mounts in here. They were sitting too high, so I had to rebend these 2 bends and make them more dramatic so that it dropped this area of the bracket a bit. So I did that, and I also had to modify the rubber. You can see it had 4 little pads that hung down on the bottom. You can see right here. And I just I trimmed those off so that it sat a little lower on the radiator, and that brought it down to the right level, so that bolts up. And then I took the Subaru hood prop rod. I tried the neon one first, but there was no way it was working. So the Subaru one does work. You can see I've got a bunch of crazy bends in it, but ultimately it comes over here and it will sit. There's a little holder that goes in that bracket and holds it right there. So that clears everything and sits nicely there. And then the same thing over here on this holder. You can see that I've got it so that it's just got a little air under it, so that it will press down a little bit on the radiator and just press it into those lower mounts. Same thing over on this one. It's just got a little air gap so that it will suck it down a little bit when I tighten it up. So I've got these very precise marks where to drill, and I'm just going to get drilling. There we go, I got that all dressed up there. Turned out pretty nice. And then down on the lower ones, you can see I've got those all just smooth as well. So that's all ready for the radiator to bolt in now. There's nothing stopping it. I just have to put the transmission cooler in first. Last night I got the transmission cooler partially mounted. I got the upper mounts in. I'm still working on the lower mounts. And the hood latch goes directly behind it. So that's the one bad thing, is you'll have to remove it to adjust the hood latch. But there's plenty of clearance to the hood latch and everything. There's clearance everywhere. And it gets lots of airflow here, so it's really the only option. I actually thought about putting it in the corner of the bumper here, in this void here, and making a grill opening in the corner, but the lines would hang down too low, and I don't want that. I don't want the lines hanging down at all. So as you can see in this position, the lines sit up behind the bumper where they're nice and safe. So I have to make a plate with 2 studs on it that goes in behind here. There's going to be just mounting tabs here. You can see I've got those lower tabs on there, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. Really clean install, if I don't mind saying so myself. And then just down here, you can see I just put this scrap of metal here, and I round it off the edges nice so that I can run the hoses behind it and zip tie them to it. And then in that corner there, I kind of reworked the metal, and I drilled a few holes there so that I can zip tie the hoses up in that corner. I'll probably wrap them with a bigger hose, like a heater hose or something, to protect them, and then run them through this corner, and that'll just prevent any rubbing or pinching or anything like that. You can see down there it's pretty well against the hood latch bar there, and that's okay though. It's not actually touching it, and it's got clearance to the bumper, which is the main thing. And as I said, good airflow. And then I'm actually planning on cutting some holes in the face of the bumper down here, like hole sawing some 1-inch round holes just for some extra airflow. I'm just working on relocating the 710 cap here. It originally came out right here, and it kind of interferes with the battery. The battery does fit in there, but there's just no room to grip the cap nicely. So and I can't put it back here because of the throttle cables and stuff, so I'm just gonna put it right here. I'm just gonna make a fitting to clock it over right here, and I'll leave enough clearance to get the dipstick out nicely. It'll sit a little higher than it did originally, so it'll be nicer to fill. Okay, we've got our oil fill, and we got a fresh sheet of template material here. So we're just going to make a little template. It's a nice thing about these sheets of template paper is they come with these cut lines on them. So we're just going to use one of the little panels for right now. Okay, so I'm just going to hacksaw that O-ring part of the fitting right off of there. I don't need that. I'm just going to be making a flange fitting. It's going to take a long time. Okay, I'll get back with you guys in about 2 hours when I get this sawed off. So we just need a short piece of pipe. I'm just going to cut it off this old scrap piece of pipe. It's actually a water main wrench, if you can see, a homemade water main wrench. So it happens to be the right diameter of steel pipe, so we'll cut that off. You can see why I chose this piece of pipe in particular, because it's really thick walled, so it'll be easy to work with, and it doesn't have any galvanizing on it. So there we go, that's pretty good for the outside. Now I just want to clean up the inside, so I'll take a little burr and run around in there, clean up the rust and clean up that burr around the edge there. So I went in the back, I found these old lawnmower blades I had laying around back there, and the hole in the center of them is bang on what I need. So I'm going to cut the flange out of them. They're just the right thickness. So I'm just going to start by cleaning up the rust and everything. Okay, well there we go, and common sense tells me to drill these holes before I cut them out. So I'm going to go ahead and go get a center punch, because I also think this will be very, very hardened steel and very hard to drill. Well, that was no fun trying to get these 4 holes drilled in here. Proved to be very, very challenging. Lawnmower blades are extremely hard, and I knew that already, but I underestimated just how hard it pretty well just mulched up this drill bit the second it touched it, and I had to sharpen it over 20 times to get through there. That's not counting the 4 or 5 pilot drill bits that I went through to get the small holes through first. But I got her done. I got it all cut out and ground somewhat smooth. I'm going to do you know, some final cleanup on it once it's welded together. So that's what I got to do now, is weld that piece of pipe in there and clock it the right amount so that it repositions my oil cap. Okay guys, I just got to get this lined up perfectly with the hole in here, and I can weld it. There you go. Turned out pretty nice. I wouldn't say it looks like a TIG weld or anything, but not bad. Well, there it is. Turned out pretty good so far. I do have to make a bit of an adjustment. It's clocked correctly. That's exactly where I want it. But it's against the feel rail there. I don't know if you can see that, but it's just a touch too high. If I cut about 3/16 of an inch or 1/8 of an inch off of that center pipe that connects it there, it'll be perfect. What do you guys think of this? I think it turned out pretty good. So I got those nuts welded on there now, so that holds the top portion. Basically all I've got left to do is smooth out the flange surfaces. I've got this giant file here I'm going to use for that, and then cut the gaskets. So I had just got the fitting clamped in my drill press here, just on the bed of the drill press, and I'm just actually draw filing the gasket surface here to make sure it's nice and true and makes a good seal. You can see where it's taking it down there and where it's not yet touching over here. So I still got to take that high area down there until it's all even, all the marks are even across the surface. So here we go, that's 100% done. Actually I want to paint it, and I got to make the gaskets, but the fitting itself is all done. I went ahead and filed both the gasket surfaces nice and true. I've just got this roll of Felpro gasket material. It's actually really good stuff. I've used it on a few projects, and so I'm going to just cut a gasket out of that. 2 gaskets in fact. Well, there you go. Sorry I skipped ahead and I didn't record cutting the gasket out or installing it. All that went really smoothly. I just used my Swiss Army knife to cut those gaskets out, and yeah, I bolted that on just with a ring wrench and then a nut driver on the upper one. And you can see there's clearance to my battery. Not a whole lot, but there's, you know, it's taller now too, so I can wrap my hand around it. and it looks kind of factory with how it's located. Okay guys, I'm just working on tying together the side aprons there to the front of the frame, the front of the structure. So I made up these couple pieces of 18 gauge to accomplish that, and I'm actually just doing some final trimming, and then I got to hammer this all, hammer it all flat to start with, and then I got to put the shapes in that I need in it. So I have to make a 90-degree flange right there. You can see how that turned out. I got it all welded in now, and you can see it ties into the frame rail there, and then into the core support here. It really stabilizes this whole structure and ties everything together. And then I just have that little gap to fill in with 20 gauge in the side apron there, and it'll have a flange that comes and meets this. It'll be spot welded all along there, so it'll pretty well look like a factory setup when I'm all done. And there it is from the underside. You can see how I spot it up into the frame rail under there. So here's the pattern for the piece of 20 gauge that's going to fill in that little bit of apron there and meet up with the piece that I just put in over there. So I'm just cutting this out of the piece of Subaru hood metal. Okay, so there's the final piece of the apron there that fits in there. To show you how that fits here. Just fits in right like that. Just like that. See what I did around the wiring here? I'm going to put a piece of hose around that wire harness just to make sure it can't wear through on that edge. I left this area right here as a drain. I'll show you on the inside. See, on the inside you can see there's like a valley in here, and I didn't want water collecting there, so I purposely left that as a drain there. But I actually have the other side right here, and the only real difference is I had to make that notch there in the corner to clear the battery tray. And as you can see, this one's all in, and it actually worked out really good because it joined up to the battery tray. Well, it's a chilly one in the shop here today, guys. But I actually was prepping up the bumper last night to get paint on it, or primer at least, and I was going to prime everything on the front end, all the bare metal here. But I've long wanted to put driving lights in the corners of this bumper. In fact, you can see over here I never quite got the corner fitted together even there, because I had that plan and I just never got it done, and I was going to put it off once again, and then it's never going to get done. And the Subaru here is actually optioned with fog lights and everything, so it couldn't be simpler. I actually have these, I guess they're older now, but these were top of the line Pia driving lights at one point, and I'm going to mount them up in the corners here. Right here, this is what we're going to be making it out of, this really heavy plate. So okay, I got a template made there, and I got that traced out ×2 on the metal there, so just gonna get out the big grinder and trim that out. So we're gonna go ahead and hole saw that on the drill press here. I've got everything lined up and clamped. It's not clamped very good. I wish I had some better clamps, but I don't. So hopefully we can get a center hole knocked in there, and that'll just hold it square from there. That's as slow as my drill press turns. It's not ideal for this kind of work. Okay, well, since I don't have a waste block under there or anything, I'm going to have to just flip it over. And see, it is cutting into there. And there we go, that was it breaking through right there. Just like that. So there we go, we got our 2 holes in there, I just got to deburr them. Okay, well I went ahead and deburred those and finished cutting them out. Pretty cold out here today, so I didn't bother with much recording. But I also got the holes trimmed out in the bumpers here. So that's the exact shape of the piece. And then this line you see here is just me hand sketching, and I'm going to cut it out on this side because I'll show you how this fits here. So essentially something like that is how it fits in there. Sorry, I can't really hold it in there and explain at the same time, but I just want I want it to angle in on this side so that the wind kind of cuts into it, and then it's a lot shallower on this side so the wind will kind of cut off it. You can get a look on that side, it's pretty much the same thing. So here we go, I'm starting to get that all fitted in there, as you can see. Just adding each individual piece, and over here I'll probably cut that back to be flat there so that the wind sort of channels out of there. There you can get an idea of what it looks like with the light in it. As you can see, I've got that fog light insert pretty well done there. I got a bit of grinding to do still. A couple welds to grind there, and I gotta build the actual mount for the light in there to hold the light, and I've still got the other side to do, but I wanted to get this side totally done first, so I'm real happy with how that turned out. Still a little behind where I want to be, but of course this whole virus thing and whatnot is holding everything up a bit, so I'm just trying to still get done what I can get done here. Well, thanks for checking out part 4 of my Neoru series here. Make sure you stop back in for part 5 and have yourself a great day. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And stay healthy.